clip has resurfaced in which Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler at an interview, and Variety asked them a question about their movie, and basically you find out that Snow White she's going to be a strong, independent woman. She's not going to need no man. She's certainly not going to need no prince.
A princess movie where the princess saves herself. Groundbreaking in 2024.
I've never heard of such a thing. And let's just go back and rewatch the clip
in case
you forgot about this clip, because it
this
unleashed
is from the D23 Expo, and on stage she said, they're going to give Snow White a modern edge, which essentially means it's not the same story,
and that men are bad.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage.
Her
what do you mean by
face
that?
is so smug.
Yep. That it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Did you hear that, losers? True love is for freaking wimps.
I know little girls across the nation are just gushing at the idea of being a leader instead of being unconditionally loved.
She's like, I can't wait to get that mid-level marketing job. I can't wait to make it to just under CEO. Like that's your goal in life is to be unbelievably unimportant to a company that will never give a crap about you. But get your bag, queen.
You lost the dwarves, but to add insult to injury, this is also not actually going to be a love story.
You know what's also funny? What I realized recently is like when a man seeks status of a position like this, there's ego involved in there, and certainly a lot of it is about success. But like me and you have talked about many times, men go to war, men achieve things, they show off, and they try to attain status for women to be able to be attractive to women. So even that's more romantic than a woman seeking this position. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but in the modern era, modern edge means no love, no vulnerability, no being scared ever. You can't be saved by a guy no matter what. And look, this is one of the reasons why I think Barbie worked and made as much money as it did, is it's a movie made by women, marketed to women, made for women. Snow White is that same thing. But if you change what it is inherently, it is no longer the story that it was before. Therefore, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think that The Little Mermaid tried to... I mean, obviously, they did rewrite parts of Little Mermaid to make it more feminist. They took away moments where the prince was supposed to save Ariel. But at the end of the day, Halle Bailey is just a more likable person, and she played the character in a way that just showed her warmth, and... She has this like infectious smile.
Rachel Zegler has
and Rachel
zero
Zegler
warmth.
just has none of the same charm.
She's one of the least likable actresses in Hollywood, maybe
also
ever.
Also, not as successful.
And since I'm feeling unbelievably cruel right now, there's this meme.
Yeah.
So there's Snow White. And
what happened to the evil witch being ugly and old and hook-nosed?
Yeah.
Like fairy tales are stereotypical for a reason.
Yeah.
They're fables.
But you can't do that anymore. Everything has to have the modern edge, and you're not, like I said, it's not just about being vulnerable. There's no cooperation either anymore, because cooperation implies that the men and the women can get along and work together. And in this case, it's not just that. It's the fact that you race swapped the most blatant of characters that you could have left alone, and then also made the seven. Like it's a firestorm. It's a shitstorm of things that are going to go wrong. There's no way this movie succeeds.
So now Snow White is about to get a Bud Light style backlash from right-wing bigots who hate fun.
Should we watch the Ben Shapiro clip? Guys, there's an image below. This is not Boobgate 2. I have checked. It is technically safe for viewing, so bear with us. I didn't post the thing below the Ben Shapiro clip. This is not my fault. I do love the username though. If you guys want to look at the username, it's incredible. Whoever that guy is a genius. All right, here we go.
Decided that apparently every redhead in the Disney universe will be recast as a racially diverse person, and this is how, for example, The Little Mermaid ended up as a person of color. It's something that somebody noticed. It's basically, if you're a redhead in Disney universe, then they'll recast you. But now they're recasting everyone. So they've cast Snow White. Snow White is now going to be played by Rachel Zegler. Okay, now, Rachel Zegler, you may know, again, her name is Snow White. Now, you might consider that racist, but that's also the name of the actual fairy tale. And in the actual fairy tale, it says skin, I mean, this is from the original 1936 Snow White. Skin as white as snow, right? That is literally in her name. That's why she has her name. So I guess just to like screw with people, they're casting, Rachel Zegler is a very talented person. I'm just
Wrong.
It's
Wrong.
weird.
Yeah, I meant to pause it there. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a lie.
Not talented.
I'm fact checking that one. Ben he's lying about that.
Casting, you might say, right? Like,
He's saying that to soften the blow of what he's about to say.
Understand? There's certain parts that are racially specific. I mean, very clearly so. Right? They're not going to cast Tiana from the Frog Prince, the princess, whatever it is. They're not going to recast Tiana as a white lady. They're not going to, even though you certainly could. But they're not going to. And we all know why, of course. Well, Snow White is like maybe the only racially specific white princess because it's in the name. And it's not like greatly evil if a person is cast as what the part is. It's very strange to me that if you cast Alexander Hamilton as a black person, that's totally fine. But if you cast Martin Luther King as a white person, that is totally unacceptable. Maybe you should cast people as like what the description of the part is. There are certain parts where the person is described as white. And that's okay. That's not like the end of the world.
And he's allowed to say that.
One of the
he's not
quote
white.
tweets said Ben Shapiro is going to be really confused about Jack Black and Jack White.
Yeah.
He's right.
It's a perfect storm, right? You could have what I found. Look, I was watching a show this weekend called Special Ops Lioness. It's a new Taylor Sheridan show, and look, you get to have you can make a couple of things in your show woke, but you can't do everything. And I hate that term. I will always hate that term. But in this show, for instance, first of all, they make a girl who has noodle arms that are about this big do 22 push-ups. Press
Pull-ups.
X.
Pull-ups.
What did I say? Push-ups, pull-ups. Press X to doubt. You can do that. They have the Overwatch team full of special operations soldiers. The lead in charge, the lead sniper is a female. Again, you can have one. You can have the other. You can't have both in this context, right? Zoe Saldana's character is a CIA operations team leader. That's fine. Makes perfect sense. The lady she hires who does the 22 pull-ups and then beats up a dude and beats the crap out of a dude twice her size, she can be a spy. That's fine. But you can't do all of these things together because you stretch the bounds of credibility. What you do is you cast Zoe Saldana as the leader of a special operations group that is, it's basically a detachment of CIA officers who are working in country. You can hire her to do this. You can have the female spy who's going to go work with Afghani women to try and infiltrate Al-Qaeda or whatever it was, Taliban, whatever it was. You can have those. But the second you go beyond that and you start incorporating people in roles that don't look visually like they make any sense, or you have this woman beat up a girl twice her size, a guy twice her size, you are now taking people out of the realm of believability. And I know that sounds sexist, but it would be the same thing if you went to let's rephrase. You're making a rom-com, right? And it's a girl, she's with her girlfriends, and she goes to a mall and she goes to Sephora. And there's a guy at the counter he's wearing a Bass Pro Shop hat. No, that's because that's too hipster now. He's actually, he looks like a farmer, right? And he's working the counter at Sephora. And you're like, I mean, maybe if this is like Sephora in the wood, maybe once. But if she goes to multiple shops and there's multiple guys working at jewelry counters, working at makeup stores, I'm trying to come up with the opposite narrative here, and it looks unrealistic. That's because it is, and it takes you out of the story. They're doing the same thing with Snow White. You can have the racially ambiguous Snow White. Fine. We're used to that now. People are still going to hate it, but you might get away with it. Maybe. I would argue that that's the one you leave alone. You can get rid of the dwarves if you want and make them 7 racially ambiguous members of a Portland co-op. Fine. I don't care, but you can't have both. You don't get to have both. You can choose one. And maybe, just maybe, people will buy in. But if you do too much, people aren't going to like it, and people are no longer going to buy into your garbage.
Yeah, and this gives Rachel Zegler the perfect opportunity to go on social media and act like she's put upon and ask for people to defend her. and, cry about
how she's being oppressed.
how she's being oppressed because, she's a perfect princess and anyone can be a princess.
Why didn't they cast you as Snow White? They could have cast you as based
My
Snow
hair
White.
is too light, probably.
Based Snow White.
I'd
They
have to have black hair.
And you would have had stuff to say, and you and the dwarves could have hung out and done stuff.
I think the marketing for this movie is going to get much, much worse as we approach its deadline.
This is not going to take the Barbie approach where it hides all the bad. This is going to take the you're a bad person approach. And if you don't go see this movie, you're a alt-right Yahtzee who
this is just a
I was going to say if they
foretaste for
cast her,
what's
they
to
would call
come.
it Snow Alt-Right.
Yeah.
If they cast you, that's what they would call it.
Alt-white.
Snow Alt-Right.
I don't claim that. This article says the Snow White backlash is rooted in the same anti-woke fervor which has punished Anheuser-Busch for hiring Dylan Mulvaney, a transgender social media influencer, for a small Bud Light marketing campaign. You're minimizing it a lot. Disney now faces an environment where any move toward inclusion and diversity risks a Bud Light-style backlash.
Again, nobody cares about diversity and inclusion. They care about race-swapping characters and ruining things that had been done another way. This never happens when they tell original stories. Never in the history of the world has this ever happened when you just tell a unique story.
You don't remember when everybody was so mad at Tenet?
No,
you don't remember that?
nobody
Or The
cared.
Equalizer?
All
Or
of their news stories, including things
even The
like...
Equalizer is a race swap.
Yeah, but nobody
cared because everybody loves Denzel Washington.
Even their news stories, like things that do well, including like Encanto, they still are making the new characters fugly. Like,
Well, you're not allowed to be beautiful anymore. What was the last time they
little
had?
girls don't want stories about, some ugly, mediocre, ordinary person. They don't want ordinary Barbie. They want someone who's aspirational and a paragon of beauty and grace and nobility. And that's what Disney princesses are supposed to be.
Look, they just, when you tell an original story, you get none of the baggage, right? So that's the worst part, is like they could do this and we've got decades of evidence that you could tell an original story and it would be fine and nobody would care. Like nobody hated Lethal Weapon. Nobody. Fun fact, nobody. 0 people in the world have ever hated Lethal Weapon. Rush Hour. Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. Nobody cared because it was an original story. It's not that difficult. They're just bad actors. Not actors, but the studios are bad actors who are out there to sow division, to get you upset and then say, why are you so upset about this? Why are you so mad about this? Why would you care? Why do you care if they change your characters? Well, you would care if they changed your characters. And I'm probably the least stringent on this rule, right? Like I care more about how they market it than I do about when they actually do it. And I understand that in a lot of ways is a losing position because you're ceding ground. But I just find that a lot of times it just doesn't bother me. But, they'll never give up and they will never stop using the outrage apparatus as the marketing for the movie. But it doesn't seem like that works either. Sure. Snow White. Sure. The Little Mermaid did good in its opening weekend, but it fizzled out. And it didn't do all that great after the fact. It didn't make $1 billion. It should have made $1 billion. And it didn't. So I don't know what they planned for any of this. I just know that it's going to be a lot of Rachel Zegler being mad at everyone and using politics.
Also claiming that Disney princess remakes of the 2010s didn't get the same amount of backlash and reactions like the Aladdin remake, the Cinderella remake.
People like the Aladdin remake for the most part. Or I shouldn't say that. People were so surprised that Will Smith wasn't entirely awful as the genie that they kind of gave it a pass. Well, and there was backlash.
They're arguing that all of these remakes have included changes to make them more inclusive or make them more feminist. It says, while the animated Jasmine wanted to escape her country's laws that held her back and marry for love and not be paired with someone in an arranged marriage, the new Jasmine is still being forced to see potential suitors to marry, something she doesn't take kindly to, and she's more ambitious and asks her father why she simply can't be the next sultan. But that's not the same thing as casting, like, I don't know, like Mindy Kaling as Jasmine. It's not the same thing. Nope. It's not the same thing as, casting Amy Schumer as Cinderella.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Amy
They're-
Schumer's Cinderella.
Yeah,
Hey, and this is the other thing. Like, here's the
They
thing.
got too proud.
You had there was a time when people didn't care. Nobody cared that Brandy played Cinderella. People thought it was fine. No. Back then, they did
But
not.
it also
feel-
wasn't the end all be all, and they did end up being able to go back to a
And-
white blonde Cinderella with Lily James.
It never goes back after.
And
that now.
you can't go back now.
No, it's and the funny thing is like also with that it works because at that time Brandy was a big deal. Her show, Moesha, was a big show as a musician. She was a huge deal, and it's just like I said with Denzel Washington and The Equalizer. If you bring name recognition to it, at the very least, even the most put upon of viewer can be like, I
Well,
kind of get it.
They would argue that Halle Bailey brought the same thing.
I guess.
But-
I mean, I didn't see that. I mean, if that was true, then that's what would have happened. But I don't think that that's
I'm
what
sure
happened.
most people hadn't heard of her before.
Yeah, I mean, I
Despite
guess.
her having a music career.
Yeah, but Brandy was a really big deal
Yeah.
back then, and it was a smaller world as far as Hollywood, meaning that like the machine played a bigger role in your ability to find fame. Now, fame is so scattered amongst influencers and regular celebrities that if you were famous back then, even somebody of a smaller level of fame back then was as big as a lot of bigger influencers are now.
I just hate that they like they're acting like we're looking for things to get mad at when they're the ones poking and provoking us.
Quit hitting
into our
yourself. Quit hitting yourself.
reactions.
Quit hitting yourself.
You know,
Yep.
They hate everything that little girls love.
And guys, if you want something, just go watch the show Grimm with David Giantoli and Russell Hornsby. A diverse cast, oddly enough.
Well, what is there
so-
for the audience of Snow White? What is there for girls?
That's a very good question. What is there?
There's nothing there to appeal to that audience.
That's not true. There's got to be stuff, right? I mean, Grimm isn't new though.
Certainly not from Disney.
What was the show that starred Jennifer Morrison that everybody liked?
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. People like that show. I didn't watch it, but I heard people like that show.
I didn't watch it either.
That's got Snow White in it, and all the fairy tales and princesses and stuff like that.
That was very popular on Tumblr.
Was it?
Yeah.
No. Well, there you go. It's just really funny too because like I said, you can have one. You can change one thing about it.
Watch Enchanted.
There you go. Enchanted.
like
But they want to cash out all their wokeness coins on the first try, and they effed around and found out. So
Yeah, it's not gonna be.
I'm excited to see this film fail.
It's gonna be funny because then we're gonna selfishly we're gonna have to talk about Rachel Zegler's meltdown, which will come after the. Actually, no, never mind. It doesn't matter. The movie does well. Take that, bigots. We'll get to talk about that. The movie doesn't do well. I
Take
can't
that,
believe you
you
didn't go see
incels.
it, bigots. It works either way, right? Like, call me selfish, but that's fine. It is what it is. I don't have any interest in seeing this movie, but I'm not the target demographic for this. But I do agree with you. I feel bad. Like the young girls are having all of their things stolen, co-opted for the sake of DEI.
Bitter old female executives with
And the
10
male
cats.
executives who are afraid of getting Me Too'd by them.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.